Welcome to Lesson 28, Ratio. Lesson 28 of Numbers and Operations. So we're going to look at ratios for the next couple of lessons, and I encourage you to look at these 6 to 8 videos in a bunch. And if anything confuses you, whatever, go back to the previous lessons on fractions and watch those so you can read through the objectives. So a ratio is comparison of two quantities by division. So when we say quantities, something that is measured, 7 pennies compared to 10 dimes, $7 compared to, I don't know, five. What do you buy for $1? Candies or sodas or something like that. So we're going to be talking about quantities, physical things that can actually be measured. Terms is the number in a ratio, and this word term is going to come up again when we get into algebra. But put that word in the back of your brain. You'll see term. Equivalent ratios are the same as equivalent fractions. And a ratio is a fraction, but it just has units in it. But for this video and this lesson right now, we're just only going to be dealing with the numerical parts of the ratio. So a ratio can be written in 3 ways. You can write 7 to 12, 7:12, which reads as 7 to 12, or that 12 shouldn't be here, 7/12, 7/12. So there's 3 ways to write ratios. And you can read the rest of the rules in the notes on your own. So express each ratio in simplest form. So 36 to 9. The first thing comes first, goes on top, and the second term, the 9, goes on the bottom. And we know that 36 divided by 9 is 4. So writing this in simplest form, 36 to 9 is 4. Looking at our second ratio, 14 to 16. Write this as a fraction, 14 over 16. And now we have to simplify. And how do we simplify 14 over 16? We look at the two numbers and we see that both of them are even. And we know all even numbers that end in 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10 are divisible by 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. 16 divided by 2 is 8. And so 14 to 16 in simplest form is 7 to 8, or 7/8. Our third example, this is 12 over 15. Put it in simplest forms. Find the greatest common factor of each. And 12 and 15 are 3 away. 3 goes into 12 and 3 goes into 15. So if we divide it by 3 over 3, 12 divided by 3 is 4. 15 divided by 3 is 5. 12 to 15 is simplified to 4 over 5. 4 to 5 or 4/5. Those were our examples. Again, this is the first in a series of lessons dealing with ratio. I'll meet you at the end of the video for the practice problems. Okay, write 3 equivalent ratios for each, 4 to 9. So the first thing you're going to do is put these in fractional form, and you could multiply by 2 over 2, give you 8 over 18. You can multiply by 3 over 3, 12 over 27, and you can multiply by 4 over 4, giving you 16 over 36. And I talked about why we can multiply by the same number top and bottom, because you can multiply, this comes to an identity property of numbers. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So when you multiply 4 over 9 by 1, technically, you get a different number. But if you had a calculator and you did 4 divided by 9 and 8 divided by 18, the decimals would be the same. And likewise for the rest. If you did 4 divided by 9 and then 12 divided by 27, you would get the same decimals. 4 divided by 9 and 16 divided by 36 will give you the same decimal as numbers. So these are called equivalent ratios and equivalent fractions. Okay, again, 5/8. 5/8 and then 5/8. So if we multiply by 2 over 2, we get 10 over 16. Multiplying by 3 over 3, we get 15 over 24. And multiplying by 4 over 4, we get 20 over 32. And you're saying you're multiplying by whole numbers. Can I multiply by a decimal? Well, technically, no. You're not supposed to have decimals in fractions, so you won't see me doing that. And multiplying by integers to make the numbers come out nicely. I could have multiplied by negative numbers to get negative fractions. So, there's another. Technically, it wouldn't be equivalent because a positive not is equivalent to a negative, but it's just an idea. In our final problem, 625 divided by 125. Express each ratio in simplest form. Now, what you could do, if you were thinking, you could divide 625 by 125, because this line means divide. The line in a fraction means divide. Let me try 5 here and see if that works. 5 times 5 is 25. So I'll bring down the 5 and carry the 2. 5 times 2 is 10. Plus 2 is 12. Carry the 1. 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 1 is 6. So 625 divided by 125, a ratio in simplest form is 5. But remember, we can always write whole numbers as fractions by putting them over 1. So now our ratio is 5 to 1. And that's the end of this lesson. This is the first in a series of lessons dealing with ratio, titled Ratio. So please watch all of the videos on ratio to give you a better understanding of how it works.